I don't know if you could see it clearly on my camera, but there's something of a canyon right there. And that canyon is creating its own toroidal chamber within its materialized, condensalized matters. And from different elements and different matters, there's something of all the elements circulating the wind. Because the wind is it's more so being invited. The wind is like it's some type of energy opposite of Earth, because it's bouncing out of Earth right now, and there's something of a wind vortex within that canyon of just wind, more so. Because when I was walking down by the canyon, there was more wind, and now I'm simply up here in a different curvature of how the monument has its own sedimentalizations. And now I'm seeing how different velocities and vortitudes of different mini encapsulations of how vortexes could gather, and the wind could be with all of the wind, just like the water is with all of the water. Just like that occurring in your body, all the water is connected to the water inside of you, and all the air more or less is connected inside of you, but not really, because the earth is separating the air, the currents of air, the vortex of air. And the vortex, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be just informational. It could be and see that boat right there, that boat is like, so there's different platitudes and there's different settings of wind, because the wind is still evident on top of the ocean, but it's just in a different monument environment setting, but nonetheless it's still there. So it's about how the wind is creating new configurations of itself and different expressions of itself based on how it's responding to the opposite of the wind, which is the earth, because I believe at the edge of the earth there's a threshold of earth and wind, because the wind has to end somewhere and it has to begin somewhere, right? So within that, how it ends and how it starts somewhere and it ends somewhere is based, and how it's traveling from that to that, it has different expressions of the wind configuration, because it's hitting upon different planes of just matter, because everything is still something of a matter, even water, because what doesn't matter will always matter, and what matters probably like to the ether didn't matter, because it's all like, we could say all of the elements are also ether, but it doesn't have to be just that, because obviously there's different types of, I'm sure there's a different definition and a different, kind of identification of what quote unquote dark matter, dark energy, and the dark ocean, and quote, all of that is. That was already a thing, we're just rediscovering it, and we're just redefining it, on what we're finding out to be as a different element, and how it's playing its role in like the earth and our consciousness, right? Obviously it's other people have their own experiences, like it's like you see that movie Lucy, right? I don't know why the movie Lucy is coming to mind, but it's like Lucy, she went to that power, however, and I'm sure there's different ways to go about that, obviously, and within her something linked up to open up her brain and be in just a different field of whatever they're calling authentic consciousness, if that's even like a thing. So within like us like discovering what the different elements are, the elements are playing themselves similarly to the collective as within our body, but not exactly, but kind of it is, because if this planet Earth is somehow like spiritually inside of our body, then we're kind of growing up to be something like our own, quote unquote, plane of a terrain, you know. So it's like we are the, you know, it's like we are like, you know, obviously like in the yoga tradition, it says it in its own way, you know, we are the terrain, you know, we are like, you know, the road itself, you know. It's just a matter of what is being unpacked, how it's being unpacked within the slowness of reality and the different speeds of reality. And based on our own individual subjective consciousness, we are who we are what we are, based on what we've already accredited and accumulated and worked for in quote unquote past lives, end quote. But it doesn't have to be called past lives, because they could be like, it doesn't necessarily just have to be looked at as the past, you know. And there was a different point I was like, you know, kind of like simmering with the quote unquote past life thing, end quote. Because the past life, it could be like, you know, it could be like a thing right now, you know, somewhere else. That's the thing I'm saying, you know. And within that, it's like something was forgotten, particularly because it's a new human. You are a new human, obviously. You're resetted, and now there's like, we have unique different types of conditioning, you know. Society is conditioning us to be some type of way, and you know, different people are, you know, just using the changes of earth and shit and the elements as they always have, and the surface level shit is what we're collectively agreeing to, based on how like all of it is just kind of like an alchemy, right? You know, they're just coming in with like, everyone has their own part of like the quote unquote industry, right? End quote. North, west, south, east type of shit. Everyone has a part of like, you know, the infrastructure, right? The infrastructure, right? So within that, it's like, it's how you're using that, you know, because it's like, it's as if God is separating and making a line between, you know, what true, real unity is, like the pure, like a more pure unity. And then the opposite of that is just how there's a certain type of differentiation. The particular type of differentiation I'm talking about is different nations have their own like quote unquote free will, end quote, and their own ability to discern how they get to grow up and like look after where they're at, you know. So it just seems like there's a line being drawn between to like division, to put it simply, you know, and then like a different type of non-division, and then how we're like more or less polarized in the two. That's the collective itself, you know. And within the collective doing that, we're all going about the national quote unquote alchemy, end quote, differently. And what do I mean by national quote unquote alchemy, end quote? Well, the result manifestation of the fucking life that we're living in right now, it's because it's all of our collective expressions. And all of our collective expressions, there could be a state of energy where that's indifference, war. War creates famine, division, you know, real fucking like, you know, real like circumstances of some shit. That's just playing on top. That's just playing on top of what's going on. So the swift title of this video, it could be called National Alchemy, because the result of the collective manifestation of the reality on a national level, it's still divided. No matter what success story you want to preach in whatever country you are, there's still a national level type of thing shit. And that thing shit is indicative upon future success on some esoteric, and not even necessarily fucking esoteric, just on some realistic society shit, some reality type of fucking shit. You know? So the national alchemy is like, you know, all the elements, they're unified, and then they're not unified, you know? They're not unified because they're giving themselves to be a free experiment for any individual conscious unit being to use the micro passive elements, quote unquote passive end quote elements, how they will, because I believe there's a line divided between a certain type of division of elements and intelligence, and then there's a certain type of non-division of elements and intelligence, and that's happening on a national level, you know? Maybe God knows that, like, maybe there's a secret unity under the secret division. That's what I'm fucking saying, and God's testing us for us to work towards that secret unity. I'm gonna come in with a part 2. Thank you guys.